Paltrocast.
Aside from doing press, good day for you so far?
Yeah, not too bad. Just yeah, nice sunny weather up here in Vancouver. So yeah.
I'd say 1 in 3 interviews these days I do is from Vancouver, whether it's the person's filming there, the person's from there, they had moved there. Like the number of albums that were made in British Columbia because of Metallica, Motley Crue, all the Bob Rock stuff. Are you originally from out there, or you moved out there?
I'm from here, but I actually moved to I moved to England when I was 17 and lived in London for like 16 years or something. And then I moved to the States for a bit, and I was in LA for a few years. And then, yeah, I got married, and my wife is from Texas, but really liked it up here. So she said, let's go and live there. And I said, okay, I may as well complete the circle,
So you have 3 passports?
No, I have 2, and then I'm British and Canadian, and then visa, O1 visa in the States. So
got it. I would bet a lot of people are confused, because my hunch would be with a common name like yours that there's a no-fly list person or 2 named Tim Phillips at any given time.
Yeah, most likely.
Well, anyway, we're not here to talk about no-fly lists or passports. We're here to talk about your composing career. And of course, Shining Vale, Bad Sisters, etc., winning awards. When was it that you kind of realized, I don't want to be the guy with the record deal that's out front, the singer-songwriter guy. I want to write for TV and film?
Well, I did, after I went to college, I started a few bands and played around England a lot. And we, I don't know. I was assisting in a studio for another composer, just kind of learning how to record. I was definitely interested in making stuff, whether it was songs and I was always much more into being in the studio than being on the stage. Just because I think I don't know, maybe I have like an urge to control things, or I just like the environment where you can perfect stuff and not leave. I mean, I also like the live experience, but I guess I just enjoy working in the studio. I like gizmos. I like, I think this job combined all my various interests of, I'm interested in stories and storytelling. I'm interested in music and songwriting and gadgets. And it's just the kind of, it's the place I could do all of them. Yeah. So,
well, being a composer for all that, in my opinion, is the exact opposite of being a touring musician, that the composer is usually housebound or studio bound. They could do it daytime hours, because if they're getting notes from the show, that's probably coming during daytime hours. They listen to the same thing 2,000 times to get to the exact second. Whereas you play live, you mess it up, well, you can't go back and you can't do that again. And you're not sleeping in your own bed, etc.
Yeah, I was always a bit, I did a lot of tours. I also did theater tours with theater shows and stuff like that. And I just learned over time, I really do like sleeping in my own bed and, working my own hours. That was a big thing as well. I like to be able to get up. I mean, before I had kids, I would, work at completely random times of the night or afternoon, whenever I felt like it. Now I'm much more structured because I have to be, but it just suited the way that I wanted to live day to day better, basically, and still allowed me the creative outlet of doing music and, all the stuff that I like doing. So,
but you still get your fix by working with people like PJ Harvey. And by the way, what do you call PJ Harvey when you're just in a room?
Polly.
So is it the normal thing to call her Polly, or is it that you have to graduate towards being at the Polly level?
She just introduced herself to me as Polly. So I was, I hadn't really thought about it. It just came, it's probably the first thing she said to me when we met like this over Zoom, so, so she's always been Polly to me. But it's every time I speak to anyone about it, they have to make the connection, or there's always a moment where they go, oh, I see, Polly is PJ. Right. So well, anyone calls her PJ who knows her,
There's a certain level where you go, okay, I know that we've been calling him Tommy Lee since 1981, but wouldn't you call him Tom?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You never know with the prominent performers. Like For you, once we get to know you, do you become Timothy or do you become T Phil or something like that?
I just stay Tim. It's not, yeah. I mean, I have a nickname, but only very close people. I can't tell you that.
We'll save it for the third interview we do.
Yeah, right.
Like 2 more Emmys and then we'll get there. But
Yeah.
when you're working with Polly on Bad Sisters and you're initially connecting over Zoom, I find when you speak to projects that have 2 to 4 writers on them, they go, well, this is the top line person, this is the tracks production person, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
is the vibes in the room person. What's your dynamic like working with Polly on Bad Sisters?
Yeah, I mean that's a real songwriter thing that they do. Yeah, that's right. But well, it's kind of different in composition, I guess. Like with Polly and I, what happened with Bad Sisters, we had a very condensed period of time. I mean, we actually had more time arranged to begin with.
Mhm.
And then her schedule sort of collapsed on itself, and
Right.
she had a record coming up that she was starting to record in 2 weeks, I think. She had a book about to come out, and the tour got moved forward, the book tour. So she called me and said, my time is suddenly much less than I thought I was going to have. I mean, do you still want to do it? How do you want to da da da? And we kind of came up with a plan, which was to make her into a whole bunch of sample instruments. So I flew to London and recorded. We spent a couple of days in the studio, basically kind of bottling her. And this was before any of the music had been written, or I'd actually seen anything from the series, or she had either. I mean, I think we'd read a script, but
Mhm.
And spoken to Sharon Horgan, who created the show.
Yeah.
But we basically sat there, and I had a very detailed list of stuff that I wanted to grab from her. And amazingly, for a pretty massive recording artist, she was up for it, because I was thinking, if she does 3 of these items on the list, I'll be happy to get that. But she wanted to do everything, and I mean, it's not fun being sampled. It's singing the
Oh.
same note on a syllable 5 times in a row until someone says, okay, we got it, let's move up 1 semitone and
Right.
do it again. I mean, and it was hours and hours and hours of doing this stuff, and she just did it. And she was actually really interested in the process of doing that, because it's just kind of an unusual way to work. And we were doing it because she wouldn't have much time to do back and forth kind of thing. So it was, essentially just kind of bottling her and bringing her home, and then using her voice in my studio, which is just something a lot of artists wouldn't be happy about doing.
Oh, no, to cut you off, it sounds like how they made Siri, where they just went into the lady, hey, read all of this. What's it for?
Right.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. That's kind of right. I mean, after I put stuff back together in the music, there was some back and forth, and I would send her stuff, and she would kind of sign off on it. And she also provided a whole load of sketches she'd done for just stuff she had lying around, and also things she'd made for this, and which all of kind of went in the blender and then came out the other side. I mean, in terms of more traditional process, the thing we did do was the Leonard Cohen cover, which was, I'd constructed a backing track for her, just kind of based on it was partly it needed to be around a minute long, because that's how long title sequences are. So I sort of said, well, we can fit 2 verses in, more or less, at this tempo. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
We had another Zoom where we worked out the key. She's very lightning fast with everything, like I was like, what do you think? I think I've put it in this key. What do you think? She picked up a guitar and went, yeah, that's good. Let's do that. And there's no like she just knows if stuff's right or not. And it's the same when she does her performances. I mean, I think we cut 3 takes of Who by Fire, and most of it, I mean, most of what became the final take is take 1.
Wow.
There's like a word that I cut in. That's it. I mean, and she said to me, like she doesn't do more than 3 takes of anything, because it just loses the freshness and whatever and you can hear that in her work. It's very immediate, and it feels, to me anyway, it always sounds like it's almost a live take. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it always has the personality of
yeah,
PJ Harvey when it's one of those tracks. It's not a studio perfection thing. It's kind of like the shortcomings are the strengths.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, or whatever's lost in being live is gained from being amazing live. You know.
Totally.
So,
So this, Bad Sisters is a relatively new show for the public, but we know that when you, the composer, start working on the thing, you've already heard it 1,000 times. You've already seen it 1,000 times. So it's old to you. Are you allowed to say what you have coming out next or what you're currently working on, or is it all under embargo right now?
no, I just did a show for Lookout Point, which is BBC Studios, basically. It's a big thriller called Devil's Peak, set
Mhm.
in Cape Town in South Africa, which is a really cool show. I mean, I'm pretty excited for people to see it, with an amazing director, South African director, who just kind of did amazing pieces of just some amazing filmmaking went on in that.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I actually just got back from London, where I sat with Polly, and we were kind of planning ideas for season 2 of Bad Sisters, which is coming in, I think we start at the end of the year. So
When does
yeah,
Sharon Horgan sleep? Because at any given time,
yeah.
she seems to have 4 shows on the air.
Oh, she does. Yeah, she's like the hardest working person in the show business. Yeah, she's pretty amazing. Her output level is crazy. I think she just yeah, she just loves being good at what she does, and there's a high demand for her too, you know.
For
She's
sure.
Yeah.
Well, the last question I have for you might yield a 2-second no, or it might actually get a philosophical answer. So feel free to go either way with this. And my last question is, when I speak to people who are successful, and I called you successful, you didn't say that you're successful. When I speak to successful composers for film and TV, I find that music interest either started with Van Halen or they never ever listened to Van Halen. Which one are you, Tim?
My music interest did not start with Van Halen, but it does include Van Halen. Yeah, I'm a bit of both, to be honest. Where did my music interest actually start? God, I think it was something between the Beatles and Michael Jackson, because that's what was playing in my house when I was a kid. Yeah,
But who did the guitar solo to beat it? That would be
Van
Eddie Van
Halen.
Halen.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah,
maybe it did start with Van Halen, you just didn't process it yet.
you could be right about that. Darren, you
Yeah,
got me, man. You got
that all started for me when I was. Do you know the composer Jeff Cardoni?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's a secret, metal shredder guitar player that most people don't realize. He's better than all the shredders who are giving the clinics.
Wow.
And the more people I started speaking with, the more they start going, oh yeah, Steve Vai is why I started playing guitar. And you listen to the scores that they do, and there's so few notes that there's no connection between their influences and their output. So that's why you never know these days where the TV and film composer is actually coming from.
That's interesting. One of my when I was a young teenager, I was heavily into Surfing with the Alien. You know.
Satriani, I know where you're going
Yeah.
with that one.
Yeah, that was big. That was big for me at 10, 12 years old or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, so when Coldplay was sued by Joe Satriani over that copyright, most people gone, Coldplay doesn't listen to Satriani, and you go, are you sure? Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Coldplay may well have listened to Satriani.
Well, Tim, the bottom line is you're doing fantastic work all these years later and really looking forward to whatever's next, whether it's season 2 of Bad Sisters, the South African related film that you're working on, whatever it is, just keep up all the greatness out there.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Darren. Good to talk to you.
Paltrocast.